us
This
connect to
conference
this.
will now be recorded.
Yeah, let's connect to this EC2 instance we have created in the last class. This is nothing but a virtual machine on AWS. It's a Linux virtual machine on which we can start our hands-on by learning the Linux basics. Okay, yesterday we have seen how to create this and how to connect to this. Anyway, how to connect to this, we'll do that in multiple ways today, and then we'll go through some Linux basic commands. So let's see how to connect. In the last class, I have shown you one method, like select the instance. Once your virtual machine is created, select the instance here. And then here you can just go here and say, okay, here you can see connect. Once you select, just click on connect and you will see something like EC2 instance connect, and you will see a browser based connection here. Okay, you can see a browser based connection here, and this is one of the quick methods to connect. But rather than this, there are other effective methods to connect to our instance. Let us go through them as well. Go back to our instance. Now you can connect to this via SSH clients. There are some SSH clients, like one of the SSH client is Git Bash, other one is Putty. Like we have already installed Git Bash, right? So let us launch Git Bash and connect to it, connect it via Git Bash. So select this instance. Every instance will have the public IP here and private IP. If you want to connect it from outside AWS, like from our laptop or from any other environment, you can use this public IP. Anyway, now again selected, go to connect again. See, we were using till now this instance connect. Now go to SSH client. See here it says open your SSH client. So let's go to the start menu. Give here Git Bash. Once it is installed, you could see your Git Bash here. Git Bash terminal is launched. Yeah, now here locate your private key file. The key used to launch this instance is abcd.pem. See, whenever we created this instance, we have downloaded this abcd.pem file. Am I correct? So go to that file. Let's check where is this file. This file is available in downloads. It should be available here. Yes. Right. So now go to the location of your PEM file. Copy this address. Go to this Git Bash. I want to go to that particular location, downloads folder. So CD means change directory. Anyone? Any question from someone is speaking, I believe?
No, I said CD. It's not a question.
Okay. Yeah, CD, change directory, right click, paste it. Okay, so change directory means that is used for navigation from your command line. So yes, here you can see the prompt change. We were in downloads. PWD means present working directory. So you can see the path. LS will list the files and folders in this directory. There were huge. Anyway, we have got PEM file. So now go to this location of the PEM file, and I just cancelled it because there are huge files. It will take some time to display the files and folders in this. So once you go there, it was saying that you have to run this command. Can you see that SSH -i, the PEM file name, and the EC2 user. EC2 user is the default user on this virtual machine we created. Whenever you create this virtual machine, a default user called EC2 user is available. And this is nothing but the DNS or host name of this EC2 instance. So just copy this command and run the command on your Git Bash. And you should be running it from the location of this PEM file. Okay, what is this SSH? What is the meaning of this? What is the concept of SSH? We'll be learning in our course. Okay, that's again on Linux concept, a secure shell, a protocol to connect to remote servers. The underlying concept of SSH I'll cover as we progress. So now just put the command and run the command. So it is asking for confirmation, yes or no. Give yes. And do you see here? I got my prompt changed. I got access. I got connected to this EC2 instance. This is nothing but a Linux instance on AWS. Do you all see that I got the prompt of my Linux virtual machine on AWS? I got connected. That's all, very simple. If you want to see all the commands, how we connected. Okay, I just cleared off. You can just check the commands, what we have used, like simply SSH -i, this one. This is available on the AWS console. Got it? This is an effective method. You can connect this way and do the hands-on. Is this
Madam,
a method of connecting clear? Yes, Kishore.
madam, I'm getting error as no such file or directory.
Which file or directory when you are running
No,
this?
if I enter that CD, no, not that first one, CD, then the downloads, that path we give, no?
You have to
Yeah.
give this path properly. Go to this directory, right click, copy the address. Okay, then
Okay,
CD space and paste it. You have to do it carefully. If there are any additional identifiers here, it will give you error. So copy the address, come here, CD space, paste the path and try it out again. So we got connected here. And this is one method. There is also another SSH client which is called PuTTY. You can also connect via PuTTY. Let me show you that method also. See, if you are stuck up doing this, okay, if you got some errors, keep the errors, like take the screenshot of the error, keep it with you. I'll help you with those at the end of the class. Okay, if you are stuck up, just listen and I'll help you fixing them at the end of the class so that you can continue your hands-on. Okay, now that we have connected from Git Bash, let us see connecting via PuTTY. Yeah, just have your PuTTY downloaded, and how to download PuTTY. These commands are available for you. This drive is available, this folder is available for you, right? Here, if you go to connect to EC2 instance with PuTTY, okay, just go here. Here you have all the steps. First, you need to download the PuTTyGen and also PuTTY. Two softwares you have to download. Just click this, go to this URL and download the PuTTyGen. Like you downloaded Git Bash, like you download any software in Windows, just download it and install this PuTTY and PuTTyGen. Okay, and yeah, once you download it, launch your PuTTyGen first. Here, start menu, PuTTyGen. Can you see that? What is this PuTTyGen? Actually, we have downloaded the PEM file for our EC2 instance, right? So, but PuTTY needs a PPK file format for connecting to the instance. So, we'll use this PEM file and generate a PPK file. So, using that private key file, PPK file, your PuTTY can allow you connecting to your instance. So, let's do that. First, just launch your PuTTyGen. See, all these steps with the screenshots are available in the document in the drive. Okay, and also for quick reference, I have also added that video here. Now come to PuTTyGen, load your PEM file here, whichever you want to convert into PPK file. Here you should select all file types. Okay, here select the folder where you have PEM file, all files, and select this .pem file. Okay, once you load that, you can see here, like you will see your file is added, and then just click on save private key. Can you see the save private key button? Save this with some name. Let's say I'll save it as ABCD. And one more thing here, yeah, see, it will be saved in the form of private key file, PPK file. So just save it. I'm saving it in the downloads itself. Done. Now, once this is done, launch your PuTTY. PuTTyGen is used to convert your PEM file into PPK file that is needed for our PuTTY. PuTTY is an SSH client. Okay, now here, just ignore this. put the IP address of your instance. Go to your instance, get the public IP, select your instance. Once you select, here at the bottom, you will see all the details of your instance. From here, copy this. Okay, come to PuTTY. Here, give that IP address. And here on the left hand side, SSH authentication. Here you should select that private key file. I have generated ABCD, right? PPK file. See here. Select and open and accept. See, the default user you should log in is EC2 user. That's all, you got connected. This is another SSH client. You can use any method. See, if you are completely beginner here, don't get confused. We have connected to our instance in 3 methods. One is like instance connect from browser. Okay, this is not effective method. The other one is via Git Bash, which is an SSH client. Git Bash is an SSH client, an interface to connect to remote servers. And then this Git Bash uses PEM file, whereas this uses PPK file. That's why we only have PEM file. To convert into PPK file, we have used PuTTYgen. What is this PPK file and what is this concept behind the files and connecting to them? That is the concept of, underlying concept is SSH, which we'll be learning as we go by. So finally connected to those instances. Got it, all of you? If anyone have tried it? So you can use any method. You don't need to do all of them. Rather than this browser base, use either Git Bash or PuTTY. Okay, you can use anything as per your convenience. Anything is fine. Okay, you need not
What
do
is
all
the full?
of. You
What
can
is the full
use
form of SSH? Man,
secure shell. Secure shell. It's a Linux concept. It's a protocol. It's a transfer protocol. It's a protocol to connect to some remote server and run some commands there. So EC2 instance is a remote server. So we are connecting to it via this protocol. Okay, like how it works, what is the logic behind it, we will be learning it. For now, just connect. First, before learning SSH, first we need to learn some Linux basics. Then we will learn the SSH concept. Then you will understand the logic behind this connection. Okay. Right. So now that we have connected to our instance, I would prefer PuTTY. You may use Git Bash as per your convenience. Now, let us run some commands. Let us learn a few Linux basics. See, EC2 user is nothing but a regular user. Okay, and that user is available by default on this instance, on this machine. And there is also a super user or else a kind of admin user. In Windows, you will have admin users, right? Similarly, Linux will have a super user or else admin user called root. Okay, root user is the super user with all permissions and privileges. So to switch to root user, sudo su hyphen. That will help you switch the users in the same terminal. Unlike in Windows, you don't have a GUI, go there, select the users. No. This is now from the same terminal, you can switch the users like sudo su hyphen. See, I became a root user. Can you see the prompt? Here, root user and the host name or IP address of that particular instance. And also the prompt here is having hash that indicates it's a root user. For regular user, it will be $. Anyway, now, yeah, let us check some commands, Linux commands, and we'll proceed.
Madam,
with
what
that.
is root? What is root means?
Root means it's a user. He's a user. EC2
Okay.
user. Some users, like in Windows, you have different users, right? Similarly on Linux, you have got some users. Root user means like a, in Windows, like a admin user. Means he will have all permissions. Okay. And EC2 user is some normal user. EC2
Okay.
user, root user, they are available by default. If you want to switch the users, this is how you do. Sudo su hyphen. You become a root user.
Okay, madam. Thanks.
Now, Let us do ls. ls should list the files and folders, and in Linux the file system is like it will have a tree structure, or else the hierarchical folders, means the parent directory is represented with a slash. This is called root folder, right? So unlike in Windows you have multiple parent directories, isn't it? What are those parent directories in Windows? Yes. What are the parent directories in Windows? See, in Windows, you have multiple parent directories like C drive, D drive, isn't it? Those are all root or else parent directories, multiple parent directories. Okay, but in Linux file system is a hierarchical tree structure. Means the first parent directory will be root. Okay, if you want to go to this parent directory, cd/. Okay, now if you check present working directory, see that's a parent directory. Now under this parent, again there will be see some default directories available. Okay, some are used by the system for system executables, binaries, and so on. Some default directories available. Again within that, if you go for something like home, there will be again some subdirectories within. Here, yeah, see, for each user there will be a directory under home. This directory is for EC2 user, right? So every user will have some subdirectories here. So under the root you have everything. Now if you want to go one level up, cd ... I again came back to root directory, ls, present working directory, I'm in root. Okay, now let's suppose here I want to create some directories. Yesterday we have seen them, right? So just let me create some directory. What is a command to create a directory?
mkdir.
Mkdir, some directory name. Let's say directory 1. Okay, now you could, when you list, you could see this directory 1. Yeah, so directory is created. Now I want to go to this directory, change directory dir1. Okay, now can you see it is showing the path.
Actually, it will come like root at localhost, na, in Linux.
In Linux,
It actually come with like root at localhost, like that also it will come, na. It is there IP 172.3.1.3.9.8.1
this is
like.
instance, right? It was showing you the IP address. Host name will be shown. Okay, if your host name is localhost, it will show you that way.
Okay. Previously, I am working where in Bharat Electronics. There it will come root at localhost. They are also using Linux only.
Yes, it is the host name. Okay, that will show you the host name of your server.
Okay, ma'am.
So user and the host name or IP address, and then the directory where you are. Now if you do pwd, present working directory, your present working directory. So where are you? You are in the directory 1. Okay, let us create some file here. So how to create a file? Like you can go with a touch, okay, some file name, file1.txt. Okay, so once you create this file, like just you enter ls. See, you have got the file created, right? Okay, file is there. How do you edit the file? How do you edit this? Means I
Yeah.
want to write content. You can use some editors like Vim. Vim is an editor in Linux. It's an editor which you can use from your command line. Okay, Vim, the file name. Of course, Vim will also create the file and launch an editor for you. Meaning, suppose you may open an existing file, or else if you give Vim and the file name, it will open the file. It will create and open the file for you. See, just give Vim file name, and Vim is an editor which can create files of any extension. Means it could create you YAML files or any text files, HTML files, any file with any extension can be created. Right now, our interest is to see how to create and work with the file. So just give Vim
Even
file.
doc file, madam. Doc
Sorry?
file. DOC.
No,
MS
that
Word.
is with the MS Word is for Windows. We don't have those here. It's an editor. Documents are is again an editor. MS Word is an editor. Those editors are not available here. Vim is the
Okay.
only one available. Okay.
Okay, madam. Yeah.
Now enter. See here, it has launched you like an editor. You may write something here, new text, or see one more thing. See, if it will not allow you directly to write. When it opens the file for the first time, it will be in the command mode. Command mode means you cannot type anything. What you have to do? Escape, colon. See, colon when you give, it will be typed at the bottom. Can you all see here, all of you? See, escape, colon. Okay, you will see this at the bottom of your page. Now,
Madam, do we need to press escape button?
Escape it enters the insert mode. Again,
Madam, actually, I
escape,
didn't
it
get
goes
it.
to the command mode. Escape will
Ma'am,
take
could
you
you repeat once?
to the insert mode.
Can you repeat, ma'am, once?
Okay, now it allows you to type in something here. So let's suppose
Ma'am, can you
this
please repeat once?
escape just type in escape insert mode. You'll come to insert mode. Again escape, you'll go back to command mode. Command mode means it will not allow you to write anything there.
Okay.
Escape means insert mode. Insert mode means you can write anything. Now because we are in insert mode, I can write something here, a new line. Okay, so done. So now if I want to save this file, again escape, colon, WQ, exclamatory. What is this WQ exclamatory? You should do it with escape, then colon, WQ exclamatory. Write and save the file. It will save this file. Write and close the file. It will save and close the file. See? Now if you want to check the content of this file, file 2. Okay? So line was added and the file is saved. A simple way of creating a file, okay, with the Vim editor. Only thing is little practice. Okay, of course most of the times we'll use something like a Visual Studio Code editors to write some configuration files and all, but if you want to modify them quickly from the command line, Vim editor can be used. With a little practice you can get used. It's nothing but used to modify some files, maybe some configuration files, maybe to modify them. This
Ma'am,
is how you use it.
ma'am,
Yes, yes.
ma'am, Vim and VI both are same type of editors, or they both are different type of editors?
Almost same. VI and Vim editors are same. With the Linux, with the different Linux distributions, you get a different type of editors. But Vim is the new editor than VI editor.
Yeah, okay. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Srilekha, I'm just showing some Linux basic commands. Even though you didn't attend the demo class or the previous sessions, you can just try to follow along. I'm just trying to work with your command line on Linux system. Like on Linux server. See, in Windows server, first of all, if you want to install some tools and do anything, first what you should do, you should know how to log in, how to create files and folders there, right? That's what I'm doing here. In Linux, this is how you create some files, because as we go by, we'll be installing the tools and working with them. So I was showing those things. Okay. So this is how you create the files, and still any help needed how to create these instances and all, I'll talk to you at the end of the class. Remind me, please. So to go one level back, like one level up cd dot. See, I'm back here. Now again, if you want, you can go to this directory one, okay, and create the files or anything. So suppose I want to delete a directory. How do you delete a directory? See, rm will delete a file. But what if I want to delete this directory one? rmdir1. See, it says it's a directory. Means if it's a directory, you have to use your -r. Minus R means it will delete the directory and also the folders in it. Means everything will be deleted recursively, whatever present in there. So it is asking for confirmation, give yes. See, it is also asking remove regular empty file also, give yes. Just give yes. Now, see, you could not see the directory, right? dir1 is not available. So that's how you could delete a directory. To delete a file, simply rm. Let me create a file here, vim, let's say file1.txt. See, when you do vim the file name, file will be opened in an editor and file will be created. See, now it is in the command mode. What is that mode? Command mode. Okay, here you cannot type anything. See here at the bottom, you just see file name. What you can do, go to the insert mode. How do you go to the insert mode? Escape I. Escape I will take you to the insert mode. Okay, so now you got into the insert mode. Now you may write some lines here again, like let's say escape another new file or whatever, some lines. To save it, escape colon WQ exclamatory. Say there are some other shortcuts if you want to delete a line, or else if you want to go to any particular file, there are some list of options which will help you to navigate, to work with your files in the Vim editor. Okay, I'll provide you the list of those commands in the drive today. So you can practice them slowly. Just how to work with the file, that's all. There is nothing else. As simple as in Windows, how do you open a file, copy the content and all. So this is how you do in Linux. With little practice, you can go through it. Because it's a completely new environment, like you may be struggling initially or spending some time there. But once you just get used to this environment, you can just work with these are very simple things in an operating system. Okay. Only thing is little practice. Right, so deleting a directories, deleting a files, this is how you do. And let me create a directory again, make dir new directory. Okay, so new directory, a directory by name new directory should be created. And suppose now I want to copy this file into this directory. Okay, so how do you do that? Copy file name. See, you need not type an entire thing. If you give F and give tab, it will just give you the complete name, whatever files are there with the starting with F. Okay, now copy this into which path? Into this new directory. So you may just give that new directory. Now just go to new directory, ls. Can you see that? So this is simple way to copy the file you want to copy and the location where you want to copy. Right, so I want to copy this file one into this new directory. Right, so that's how you can copy the files. And let me create another directory here. Just come out of this cd11 one level up, like I'm under root again. So here I'm creating again new directory 2. Okay, see here I'm having another directory called new directory 2. So if you want again, you can just go to this new directory 2. I don't have any files here, right? I'm just coming back. Under this, I'm having file 1. If you want to, we have copied, right? You can also move the file, like move file 1 into this new directory 2. Where is your new directory? See, you should give the complete path of your new directory. It is under root. So slash under root, it's a new directory 2. Okay, see under slash, and when I give tab, it's automatically, oh yeah, see everything is coming up. So slash n, then it will show you new directory 2. Okay, now see you don't have file 1 here. Understood, it was moved. There is a difference between copy and move. So now if you go here to new directory 2, Yeah, you have the file one, move to this directory. So these are the simple commands like managing your files and folders on your system. And clear is a command to clear the terminal. Okay, clear the screen. Now, history is the command which will help you see all the commands which we have executed. Suppose, again I am clearing, I just want to see only last 5 commands. History 5. History 5, history 20 should be showing the last number of commands. See, one more thing. Some of the commands may be different with respect to different Linux distributions. Okay, ours is CentOS and Red Hat based distribution. Here, history 20 or 5 may not be working. Just you see the complete history. And suppose I want to check the previous command. You can use up and down arrows. See, up and down arrows will help you. I'm just running, I'm just clicking up arrow. I can go to all the previous commands. Do you see that? Means if I want anything, I may run that. Okay. So see, I'm just giving up. If you want to go down, like if you want to scroll through the history of commands, use up and down arrows. Understood what I'm saying? See here. Okay, these are all simple things like to manage your previous commands, to check the previous commands, right? These are the ways, these are how, this is how you can check them, right? And there is one more thing called CD tilde operator. Okay, if you do CD tilde, this is nothing but home directory of root user. What is the home directory? Home directory is nothing but each user will have his own directory. Means let's suppose now I am a, which user I am here?
Root user.
Root user, right? So if I install anything as a root user, or if I do anything, they'll be under this home directory of root user. Similarly, every user will have their own home directory. We'll talk about the home directories installations as we progress. First, here I'm teaching you a few Linux basics, whichever required for us to step in and do some tasks on the system. As we progress, whenever we come across any topic, like we'll be coming across a message concept in Jenkins. Yeah, as we go by, we'll be getting some script concepts, environment variable concepts. Then we'll be teaching those Linux concepts again. Okay, first we are seeing the very basics so that we can get started. Okay, so here CD until will take you to this particular root home directory of a root user, right? And just let us go to root again, the parent directory of the system, and again you are having some subdirectories. Let's suppose, let me go to some directory like local. We don't have anything here. Let me go to USR. Okay, there are some subdirectories here in the system, right? Like in the USR directory. So again here, if you want to check the contents or list the files of any particular directory, let me just come up. Okay, I am under root. Now let's say I want to list all the files in this USR directory. Just you can do ls and the directory name. Means to list the folders and files, you need not go to that particular directory. Without going to the particular directory, you can also do ls and the directory name, so that you can list all the files and folders of it, right? Again, if you want to see the contents of the subdirectories also, ls -r usr. Cannot access user. Oh, sorry, it's a directory name is usr. See, there are lot many things, right? Understood what it is showing? Let me show you once again. Okay, this is the command. Okay, ls -r means it will also display you the content of the subdirectories and folders. Okay, let me just create another directory of our own so that you can understand these commands clearly. Let me create a directory, my new directory. Okay, go to my new directory. Here under this again I am creating some subdirectory like mkdir subdirectory. Okay, now we are in let's go to subdirectory. Okay, let me create some file quickly. I'm not modifying it, just touch will just create the file, that's all. So file1.txt. Okay, done. Now yes, if I want to list, I'm already in subdirectory. PWD, I'm already in subdirectory. LS will list it, but without going to this directory, if you want to check the contents of it, like see, I want to check the contents of this my new directory. Okay, ls my new directory. Okay, it was just showing you the subdirectory. If you also want to list the files and folders of it, ls -r my new directory. Understood now? This kind of display so that you could see all the contents of it. In Windows, you may just open a folder with double clicks and you may check. This is how you can check the contents of any subdirectories. They can be displayed this way. Got it, everyone? With a little practice, you can enjoy working with this command line. Only thing is practice. Got it clear? Shall we proceed? You could also confirm me. If you cannot unmute, you could also confirm me through the chat window. Yes, or any questions, anything you could let me know. Shall I move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks for confirming. And these are the commands which we can use for managing our system. There are few other things like some commands like uname -a that will show the system details and the kernel information it will show you. Okay, here is the system information. Yeah, some details. It's about a GNU Linux system. It's Amazon Linux from AWS, right? This is one method, but these commands we use very rarely, but just give some system information. And there is another file under etc OS release. Okay, this is a file. If you check the content of this file will give you your operating system details. See, mine is Amazon Linux 2, which is like CentOS, Red Hat, Fedora systems. Okay, so cat, this file will give you the details of the operating system. Some simple commands like how it works. Okay. Just to get some information of your operating system. Okay, fine. These are enough to get started. Okay, we have seen how to navigate to the files, folders, how to check the content, how to delete the files, how to delete the folders. Now let us take up another interesting task.
Ma'am, can you please explain how to delete the directory? Means folder.
Delete the folder. This is the command. rm -r the directory name, or else you can also use rm -d the directory name. Okay, rs -r will delete the directory along with its contents recursively. Got it, Nikita?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll provide all these commands. Okay, you need not save them, just listen and you can work on them after the session. So yeah, now that we have seen working with the files and folders, let's talk about installing any softwares, which is again another major task in any operating system. Isn't it? Means very important. Like for our DevOps, we need so many tools, like we need something like a Git, Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible and all, right? So how do we install our softwares? Correct? So let's talk about them. How to install these packages. Here in Linux, installing packages will be done via something called package managers. What is this package manager? See, package manager will help you install the packages on the system. And depending on your distribution, means depending on your Linux operating system type, ours is Linux. Of course, again in Linux, there are so many distributions like we have discussed. There is Debian system, Red Hat system, like RHEL systems, and so on. So depending on the operating system distribution, you have different package managers. Ours is Red Hat based. The package manager is Yum. And for Debian systems, there are package managers like YAML. Yes, what is a package? Package is nothing but a software. Okay, so in Windows, you'll be installing some packages, some softwares, right? Same is the case here. Packages are nothing but some softwares. How do you install it? And these softwares will be in the form of generally compressed files or a zip files. Okay, so how do you download them? And if you take Windows, whenever you install any software, where do that software goes or where does it get installed? Yes, all of us know that, right? Where do those get installed in Windows operating system?
C drive.
C drive and program files, isn't it? There is something like program files where all of those packages will see, correct?
Yes.
So installing any packages Windows is very easy because you just download the executable, run it. So you just click on next and next, go through the wizard, the GUI wizard. It's very simple, right? In Windows, in Linux, to install a package, please keep muted. Please keep muted, everyone. In Linux, you will be installing a package, but again, this package, complete package will not be there in a single directory like program files. That will be, your installation files will be divided into different folders, like bin folders, lib folders, and so on. Means when you install, let's say I'm installing a software. Okay, this software may be having some binaries, some libraries, and so on, right? So they will be all be shared across multiple directories. Like you have already seen, right? Some bin folders, lib folders, default folders are there. So your software will be split across. So you may not be, it is not very easy to delete or manage them. Okay, installation in Linux is a bit challenging when you compare it with Windows. Of course, it's simple, but different process, let's say. It's not complex, but different kind of installation happens here. Your installation files will be shared across different system folders. And also when you delete it, if you are installing manually and deleting, you have to go to the particular directory, search for those files and delete it. So rather than all this, what we'll use? We'll use some package managers in Linux. Means Yum is a package manager for Red Hat based systems. So what this will do, this will take care of installing it, distributing those files across, and it will take care of all the installation. Similarly, via this Yum, I will delete my packages. I'll install it via Yum, I'll delete it via M package manager. It will take care of installing it into the relevant directories. It will take care of, whenever I'm installing, it will take care of removing all the files from all the relevant directories. Also, it will help me, like let's suppose I'm installing Docker. It may need, let's say, another package, another software dependency should be installed. Even those dependencies will be taken care by this package manager, right? So I'll be installing my software's packages on Linux via this package manager, right? Every system comes by default with this package manager. Just restart it whenever you got disconnected from your terminal. Give again EC2 user, switch to root user with sudo su hyphen. Okay, so now let us install some package. Let me install our first tool in our delivery pipeline. In DevOps, what is our first tool? Yeah, what is the first tool we are going to learn? Whoever attended like the day one or else.
Git.
Yeah,
CD.
Git. Git is the first DevOps tool we'll be taking up in our course. Like where like it begins from the Git, right? Our delivery pipeline. So let us install Git. yum install git. That's all. What it will do, okay, I'm telling my package manager to install git. So this yum package manager will download these packages from the repositories. There will be some yum official repositories over the internet. It will download from there and we can see our software installed. Let's see that yum install git. See, it is downloading everything. It is asking for confirmation. Give yes. See, that is what package manager does. You need not go and check which file should be there in which folder. No, everything will be taken care by package manager. That makes again installation on Linux also easy. Okay. So finally got my package git installed. Now if you want, you can check the git version. Yes, you have the git installed. So this is how you can install any packages in Linux. Am I clear, everyone? So yeah, like I said, whatever be the Linux distribution, few commands may be different, but this is almost this is how you work with your package managers. Okay, package manager may be different. If it is Ubuntu, it may be like apt package manager. But again, the command is same: apt install git. That's all. Okay, you need not learn all those distributions and all. This will do. Got it clear, everyone? Any questions in this part? So that's how you can use your package manager to install any packages. Like we have installed Git. You can go and start working with the Git. Okay, like you can install any softwares like this, like maybe Docker or Ansible. Yeah, and also sometimes one second, sometimes latest packages may not be available in the default repositories. So how can you update them? All that we shall look into. Yes, may I know who is this? Any question?
Can we know where this Git application got installed, in which folder, and which properties it got, and which directory it got installed?
You can check it. Generally, it will be installed under USR local bin. You don't have anything in the bin. USR local will be used generally to install it, or else you can query it to check the install location. See, these are all the different directories, like a bin, lib directories, where libraries of the packages will be, and yes, bin. 1 minute, let me check here under a bin. Yeah, can you see here? Git shell. Can you see here? Git shell. Here you can see, and also you can do like which will help you. Which git, right? It was in USR bin. This is how you can check it out, right? Generally, it will be under USR under bin. Got it? Generally, you give just which and the tool name or the package name so that you can see the path where it was installed.
Ma'am, suppose we need to check Jenkins, we enter which Jenkins. That's it, na, ma'am?
That's all. But Jenkins is not there, right? We didn't install Jenkins. So
No, just
when
I'm giving example only.
Correct. Which Jenkins? It will give you the path. It says no Jenkins. Okay.
Okay, understood.
Or
Understood, ma'am.
similarly, Java is not there. It says command not found. If you have installed it and if you know, you can do which Java. But Java is not there. Okay. That will give you the installation path.
Ma'am, suppose we want to remove or delete the tool, how to delete, ma'am?
Yeah, you have installed it via yum install, right? To delete it, yum remove git. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay, ma'am.
That will help you delete your package. Done. Now if you do git, see, I think you are seeing it again. 1 minute. Yum remove git. No packages. Yeah, 1 second. Which git? USR bin. You are seeing here git. All the dependencies may not be deleted this way. Yum remove git. You should give the complete package name. -y. But still we are seeing git clone init restore. These are git commands.
Git star.
Yeah.
Remove git star.
Yum remove git star.
No space.
No, we should give the package name there. The complete package name we should provide. Like we have got this version, right? You should get the package name. Okay, with the complete package name, we should delete it. It's like a git hyphen 2.3.2 or something. I'll let you know the exact command tomorrow. Okay, so this is basically the way you manage your packages, install or delete the packages. This is how you work with, right? So now
Ma'am,
that
in
we have understood working, yeah.
ma'am, in your USR bin we can remove like RM like that we can remove. Ma'am.
No, not like that. That is to just delete the files. Okay, but here we should delete the package. It's not a file, right? It's a software installed on your system.
Okay.
You should provide the complete name of your package.
Okay, ma'am.
So yeah, now let us get started with Git. Shall we get started with Git? And any other Linux commands we have, we shall continue learning them whenever we come across any concept. So shall we get started learning Git? Or any more questions before we proceed? So let's get started with Git. First, what is Git? Why do we need Git? Where is it used? First, let us try to understand this. So what is Git? How many of you know this Git? Git is a version control system. What is meant by again version control system? See, in our projects, there might be huge number of files available, right? Maybe let's suppose in your project as a DevOps person, there might be so many config files, okay? Or else there might be so many script files written for configuring our infrastructure or automating our infrastructure, right? So there might be some config files or else script files available as a DevOps person, and you want to manage all the files. Means you have to save them securely, right? You have to have backup of those files. You have to maintain versions of those files. If it is one or two, you can do manually. But when your infrastructure is very huge, how do you manage those files and folders? Correct? So that's where version control system comes in. Okay, this version control systems will be used by everyone. Means of course developers use it. It's mandatory for developers because developers write some hundreds of files, or else they'll be writing a lot of program files, right? All those should be version controlled and saved. So it will be used by developers. Similarly, it will be also used by testers. They will also have some test scripts, some automation test scripts written to test the application. Also, DevOps persons will use it to manage their config files, to manage their script files for automation. They'll be using them, right? So each team, like anyone in IT, should be learning this version control system from the perspective of managing your files. Okay, so first we'll learn Git from the perspective of managing the files. Okay, once we know managing the files, Then we'll learn about implementing this Git in the delivery pipeline. Okay, so we need not write some code or program files here. Any files, given any files, they might be some shell script files, they might be some configuration files. Okay, whatever be it, how do you manage them? How do you save them securely? How do you backup? How do you version control? So first we'll learn the Git from the perspective of managing your files. Okay, then we'll learn to implement it in our DevOps. Right, so Git is a version control system. It can version control files of any extension. Means if you take developers, they might be writing some Java files, .NET files, whatever it is. They might be writing some Selenium scripts, UFT scripts, and some like using some automation test scripts. We might be writing some Ansible scripts, some configuration files, and so on. So anything can be version controlled. So now we'll learn Git first, how to use it to version control our files. Okay, to understand this better, like what is meant by version controlling, let us take up some use cases. Okay, let me explain you first use case. See, in a project, let's suppose, okay, this is some remote server. Okay, all the code, all the project work, all the program files, or else let's say all config files are kept on this remote location. Okay, and people like different users like us, like a developer or DevOps person, we are connected to this. Okay, and we are using these files, means we are working on these files. Let's say there are two DevOps persons, let's say DevOps person A, DevOps person B. Okay, there is some file called p1.config. Okay, both of them have to work on the same file at the same time. Let's suppose, okay, take a scenario that there are two DevOps persons, DevOps person A and B. So A has to work on p1.config, B has to work on p1.config. So he has to download this file into his system, make the changes. Similarly, this developer has to download it and make the changes, right? But whenever they are modifying, let's suppose this DevOps person A and B, both of them got the files to their local computer from this remote location where it was shared with all the users. Okay, so now yeah, A made some changes, put this file back on Monday. B also made his changes and he kept this file back onto this remote location on Tuesday. Here I'm talking about a scenario where they were not using any version control systems. Okay, so if we are not using any version control system, and this is now if people are working, this file finally, like on Tuesday, after B have updated his changes, p1.config will have which person changes? Can it have both the person changes? Yeah, I didn't get your answer. Hello.
I guess B person can change at last.
B person has placed the changes. So my question is, A made his changes and kept the file here on Monday. B completed his changes in your local computer and put this on remote on Tuesday. My question is, this file, after B placed his changes, like after Tuesday, this file will have which person changes?
B,
B.
B, madam.
Yes, B person changes will be there, because what is happening here? This B is overwriting the changes of A, isn't it? Yeah, because whatever, when B places file, his changes are being overwritten, like A changes are being overwritten, correct? So B is overwriting changes here. A doesn't know this, even B doesn't know this. This is happening unknowingly. And if this keep on continuing, is it an accepted case in the real projects? Is it an accepted scenario in the real projects? Definitely not, isn't it? This is not accepted, because if this keep on continuing, let's say in this team there are 10 people, it could be a DevOps project or a development project, whatever it is, it's not accepted. And if you have a team of 10 people or so, the project gets corrupted and messed up, right? How to avoid this? That's where again version control systems comes in, which allows developers to work simultaneously, parallelly. It will allow developers to work simultaneously and parallelly so that they can work on the same file at the same time without getting overwritten. Okay, because see, we'll be working in our projects. I'll be working with my changes. You are another person. You'll be working on some other changes, or else maybe the same file. So we'll be busy working with our changes or working with our requirements. We cannot just go and check if someone else is overwriting our changes or else what is happening to my file and all, correct? So there comes a need of a version control system, so that if it's a development team, developers can concentrate working on their logic, their requirements, rather than struggling up with the changes on whether the security, whether the file is saved properly or not, right? That's where version control system comes in. It will not allow people to work or people to overwrite the others changes. Okay, so it can be handled. So how it handles, that's an interesting part. We'll be looking into each of these use cases practically. First, I'm explaining what is this Git, what is a version control system, and then we'll execute, we'll look into all these scenarios practically. So that's the first thing. What else Git version control system can do? Not only that, let's suppose, okay, let's say there is a person A, he's working on this file. Let's say he's a developer. He's working on this P1, some program file, and he made some changes to this. Okay, as per the client requirement, he have modified. This is called version 1 of the file. He want to again, let's say he want to modify this. Client gave some new requirements, and client want version 2 of this program. Okay, see, it may be a developer, or else in our case it might be our Jenkins file, some Jenkins file, or else some Docker file, whatever, as a DevOps person. Here our interest is not what is the file about and all. Okay, here the concept is, yes, he want to upgrade it. So in this process of upgradation, let's suppose what this person did is he have deleted this version 1, or else he have just modified it, that's all. He just modified and made V2. Means there is no more V1, only V2 is available. But client came back after a few months and said that because this new version is not encouraged or liked by their end users, they don't want it. They want to go back to the previous version. Isn't it? Sometimes if new versions are not doing well, it could be any automation script, it could be any shell script. If the new modifications are not doing well, we may go back to the previous version, revert to the previous versions, correct? Right? So how is that possible again? Can you do that manually? Can we handle it manually? Managing versions, whenever you make a change, you should maintain that copy. Previous copies should be maintained. So managing the versions, like different copies of the same file manually, is not possible. There comes again version control system into picture to maintain versions of each and every file, right? So that's isn't that sounds great? In real time, imagine you are having so many files, some configurations, like I said, some automation scripts. So all those will be versioned. Means at any point of time, if you want to go back to the previous file, like previous changes, yes, all the versions are available, right? So that's another thing what a version control system does. So version control system is a tool which can help or which can allow developers or any team members to work parallelly, simultaneously on the same files, right? Also, it will help you maintain versions or backups of the files. Not only that, let's suppose till now, okay, we have created our CI/CD pipeline, we have written some scripts, and it was doing good. Let's suppose we have modified the script, something went wrong and the pipeline got terminated, or else like it failed in between, right? So immediately we need to figure out, I need to figure out the pipeline and do the deployments automatically to production. But what happened, I need to first identify what happened, what went wrong. Means I need to have a detailed logging. What is meant by log? What are log files? Means I need to have a detailed history of the changes made, like yes, DevOps person A made changes to file 1 on line number 7 at 8:30 p.m. today. 10 minutes back, some person made changes on this file, on this line. So that if I have this kind of detailed logging, yes, we can revert those changes, isn't it? We can just go back and revert those changes. Correct? We can just go back, remove these changes so that the pipeline can continue working, right? So a system which can provide you detailed logging with a complete history of what changes made by which person and all the details. Can you do this manually again? Obviously no, right? All these are taken care by a version control systems. Means basically it will allow a team to collaborate well. See, we should collaborate well in our team first, right? To collaborate with other, before collaborating with other teams, first of all, the team should work with proper collaboration. Means if I made a change, my other teammate should understand or should know or should have a history of what changes happening there, right? So this version control system will help us. Similarly, if I made changes on a file and another teammate is also working on the same file, we should not be overwriting each other changes. So all this can be done through version control system, right? That's what a version control system does. So anyone in IT should learn it. Okay. And again, now we understood what a version control system is. There are again, depending on the architecture, they were categorized into 2 types, like centralized version control systems, distributed version control systems. Okay, means depending on the architecture, they were categorized. We'll get into that architecture in few minutes. Before that, all of you understood this? Is this much clear for everyone? Any questions here?
Madam, what is CVCS and DVCS? Come again?
Centralized version control systems.
Okay.
Centralized version control system and distributed version control systems.
Okay. Okay.
Based on their architectures, actually they were categorized. So what is their architecture, how they work, and all we have to go through. And then again, Git architecture. Okay, before getting into the architecture, let me give some examples. See, there are so many version control systems. Okay, there are so many version control systems. Git is one such. You have Git, you have SVN, TFS, Perforce, and so on, so many. But Git is very widely used version control system when you compare with anything else. Git is very widely used. Okay, almost like 90% of the projects are using Git because of its great features, particularly a great branching merging feature. Of course, other tools also offer it, but Git's branching feature is so unique and so sophisticated that allows developers or teams to work with proper collaboration. So what is all that we'll learn? Don't worry, just I listed here. This is very widely used tool. We'll be learning this in our course. Completely from the basics till advanced concept, we'll learn it thoroughly. Then we'll start using it in the pipeline. Okay, complete hands-on will be there on this with the different scenarios of how you avoid conflicts, where branching comes in, which branches will work, lot many things. And now, yeah, they were categorized, right? Like version control systems were categorized. Centralized version control systems, distributed version control systems. So our Git falls under distributed. Okay, distributed architecture is better than centralized for many reasons. Like how it is, we'll see. And all the modern projects, all the new projects were using it. And what are the other tools under centralized version control systems? SVN, TFS, Perforce, these comes under centralized. Git, Mercurial, Fossils, these are some of the tools which implements this distributed architecture. Any questions in this part? Any questions from anyone? So we shall get into this architectural details of both the types in the next class. Any questions here, you could let me know. Whoever didn't do the lab setup, you can get the lab setup done. or whoever stuck up with the hands-on part till now, whatever we did, you can get back to me now. Any questions or any concerns if you are stuck up anywhere during these sessions, like creating an instance or anywhere if you are stuck up, let me know. I'll help you out now. And also, like I said, please share your email ID so that I can share you the lab setup documents and also Git documents for tomorrow's class. Tomorrow, yeah, we'll be talking about this architecture and we'll start with Git hands-on. So I'll share you the further documents. Whoever didn't receive the documents, any document till now, please share your email IDs. In the chat window, you can share it privately so that I'll share tomorrow's documents as well. Whoever received the documents already for lab setup, you need not share again. I'll send the access for Git also. Any questions from anyone? Will you be able to share the document before 10 a.m. tomorrow? 10 a.m. our time, Srini. I'll share it now itself. 10 a.m. if you are from US, is it your time? Okay, you are saying IST. Sure, I'll share it. Just leave your email IDs. If possible, everyone can leave it so that I'll have the complete list. I'll share the new drive as well. Even whoever received also can share your email IDs again so that I'll share for whole team again. Were the concepts clear? Have you understood what Git does, what a version control system is all about? Were all the concepts clear for everyone? Thank you, Swati, for confirming. Thank you, Srini, and everyone for confirming. Share the email IDs privately and I'll provide you the access for tomorrow's document. Tomorrow, before you join the class, get ready with your lab setup. Okay, get ready with your EC2 instances and just go through some Linux basics. Okay, we'll continue from here tomorrow. Please share your email IDs. Whoever have not, put them in the chat window.